morning to everyone, and of course I'm excited to announce that I will be leading a 3-country trade mission to West Africa beginning this Sunday. And the delegation will visit Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. This will be my second trip to Africa since I've been mayor. In the first year, we traveled to South Africa, and that was a very important trip for us. Houston is home to, and this one is even, to me, is even more important because Houston is home to one of the largest Nigerian populations in the United States. And in this mission, we'll focus on further building on the already strong political and cultural and business ties of all 3 countries and Houston. Our goal of the trade mission to further build on the already strong political ties between all 3 countries, to find new economic opportunities for Houston companies in Africa, and to find opportunities for these international companies to do business right here in the great city of Houston. We'll continue to grow the cultural and civic engagement between Houston and Africa. We'll establish consulates in Houston for all 3 countries. It's what we want, because right now, with respect to these 3 countries, we don't have a consulate office here. And it has always been a little thorn in my side, so to speak, especially for Nigeria, with us having a very large population, if not the largest outside of Nigeria in the United States, right here in the city of Houston, that the consulate office is in another city. So that's one of my top priorities, is to go and build on the relationship and then stress the importance of a consular office right here in the city of Houston, not just for Nigeria, but for Cote d'Ivoire as well as Ghana. Last year, the city of Houston hosted the first ever Houston Africa Energy Summit, which brought energy ministers and presidential advisors from nearly 20 African countries to discuss powering Africa's future with Houston's energy leaders. And we have celebrated Houston Africa Day for the last 6 years. And for those who came to the Africa Energy Summit, it was overwhelmingly successful. Quite frankly, I don't know if it's been done in any other city in the United States. Well, we want to build on that relationship. And what we have discovered, what we're sensitive to is that we have asked African leaders and others to come to Houston or to come to the United States, but it's also important to build a very reciprocal relationship. So it's also time for us to go there. The delegation is made up of a diverse group. In fact, I think we're taking anywhere between 30 to 35 people with us. The Vice Mayor Pro Tem, Martha Cash Tatum, will be with me on this trip. Council members Tiffany Thomas and Councilmember Carlos Cisneros will be accompanying me. We'll have representatives from the Houston Airport System, the Texas Medical Center, Chevron, Halliburton, the Port of Houston, will all be accompanying me on this trip, along with some other business leaders, the Ghana American Chamber of Commerce, the Houston Sports Authority. There'll be African business leaders with us. So a pretty strong delegation. And some of my team are already on the ground. They've been in Africa now for a good week, laying the groundwork. They started in Ghana and they have worked their way back. Now they're in Nigeria, and that will be the first stop we will make when we leave on Sunday, for the next 9 days. So we're very excited, and there's always room for all of you. Get on board. Let's go. So let me stop and let me just say that this trip is being led by the Mayor's Office of Trade and International Affairs here at the City of Houston. Chris Olson is the director. And then also on this trip, my communications team, DJ and others will be with me as well. So a good group that we have taken, and I'm really excited about it. If there are any questions, I'll certainly take them.
Yes, strong. That's a very good proposal. Now let me ask, why would you wait till the end of your tenure to undertake this very important project?
Well, I won't say the end of the term. I started off my term 7+ years ago. That trip was to South Africa, Zambia, Botswana. That was the first trip that we made. In the meantime, we have traveled all around the globe. This trip would have come much sooner, but COVID kind of shut us all down. So we have rescheduled as quickly as we can. There was another trip, for example, that was planned for the Caribbean with the delegation. All of those things got caught up with COVID, so that caused some delay. And then for me, I'm going to be mayor until December 31st of 2023, 11/59. So if I can squeeze in another trip and get back before 11/59, then we'll take another trip. But the reality is that this one is important. It hadn't stopped us. I mean, as you know, we started Africa Day 6 years ago, and that has grown and grown and grown. We've also, of course, with the African Energy Summit right here in Houston, we have had a number of African leaders who have been here. We're going to Cote d'Ivoire. We just hosted the mayor in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, here. She will be hosting us there. And of course, the president of Ghana has been here. He will be traveling when we go to Ghana, but we'll be meeting with the vice president there. We'll be meeting with a number of ministerial leaders, whether it's tourism, energy, you name it. While we are there, we'll be meeting with people of the diaspora in Nigeria, who have been very, very helpful with us. So it's always timely. I'm still the mayor, and so you do as much as you can all the way up until the last minute.
Ms. Mayor, my name is Chris Solasi, and I think I will tell you that the Nigerian community is pretty excited about your tour, your trip to Africa. They're even more excited that you've indicated that you're going to put some pressure to make sure that Nigerian consulate is located in Houston. Is there anything different that you will do from what others have done in the past to make sure that it comes to fruition?
I think it's important for Houston, and not just Houston, for those of us in the Western world and the United States, to build a foundation upon which a relationship can grow. And the African continent is a growing economic powerhouse in the making. And I think it's important for a city like Houston that brags on being highly diverse and the energy capital of the world, with the largest medical center in the world and the #1 port, to make sure we build and solidify that relationship. Though these three countries, for example, do not have a consular office in the city. We have the 3rd largest consular corps in the United States. Okay, 3rd largest. But we don't have a consular office for either one of these three. Well, you can either sit back and ask for it, or you can catch a plane and go and make your case in person. And I do think it's important for us to be able to, in order for us to make a strong case, that we be able to sit down at the table or across from one another and express our interest and why. But But it all starts with building that relationship. I think we've done an excellent job at building the relationship with people from the diaspora here, but it's important for us to go there. If nothing else, a level of mutual respect. Okay? So that's what we're seeking. That's what we're seeking.
Mayor, thank you. You've been doing a great job in the city of Houston, and I want to briefly talk about what he said concerning the consulate office. I remember before you became mayor, we had like an hour interview with you, and then you promised that you were going to be on the issue of the consulate office. So going to Nigeria now, what are you going to do differently? That's one. And then secondly, we have a new government in Nigeria. So, and I want to believe that energy and medical are one of the two major areas where, sorry about that, areas where you can, come in. So what are your expectations in that regard?
And there is a new government in Nigeria that just came into play, I want to say May, June, because quite frankly, the plan was to go to Nigeria earlier in relation to the question. The plan was to go earlier, but when Nigeria was in the midst of political elections, it was too soon. So we elected to wait until the elections were over, and now is a good time to go. And what do we plan to do differently? Number one is to go. That's number one. And we're going when the new leadership is just coming in. So it's an excellent opportunity to kind of be some of the first persons, for example, to be there saying, we wish you well and we want to establish a relationship with you. And it's our hope that while we're in Nigeria that we'll be able to meet with some of the highest ranking newly elected officials when we are there. That's certainly what we are hoping to do. And we've had some very constructive relationships with the Diaspora Commission that's there. In fact, it's the Diaspora Commission that's hosting us for dinner on that first night that we will be there. Nigeria is a large country with a large population whose numbers exceed that of the United States. When it comes to energy, it is a major player, in the energy sector. Houston is the energy capital of the world. There are a lot of synergies between Houston and Nigeria. And that's one of the reasons why you have companies like Chevron and Halliburton that are on this trip with us, when it comes to the cultural exchange, there are a lot of things that this city can benefit from a strong relationship with Nigeria. And many of the professionals, many of the people in life sciences, educators, business leaders, are right here in our city coming from Nigeria that have benefited our city. It just makes a lot of common sense for us to do everything we can to build a stronger relationship between Nigeria and the city of Houston. And that's what we're seeking to do. And quite frankly, from my point of view, when people on the African continent are looking towards the United States, I don't want their first impression to be New York, or Atlanta, or DC. I want their first impression to be Houston, Texas. And in order for that to happen, Houston has to go and needs to go there. And then what a better time to go than when this city has an African-American mayor leading the way. So this one is not just political or cultural. This one in large part is personal. And I think that's the difference.
Hold
on one second, to the young lady.
Thank you very much. My name is Tokumbo Limpio, and thank you, Mayor, for everything that you're doing. You said something that it is a strategic move to go to Nigeria now that they have a new president in place. but it also happens to be the time that you're leaving. What are the things that we're going to put in place to make sure that the foundation you're laying in Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire remains solid even after you leave office?
Well, I'm the mayor, I'm leading the delegation, but I'm taking a team with me. It will be one thing, for example, if I was going by myself and with one or two other people, okay? Yes, I'm coming towards the end of my term, so if it was just one and two or three others, I don't think the long-lasting impact would be as great. But I'm not going by myself. I'm taking institutional leaders with me. So people from my airport system going, from the port going, from the Texas Medical Center going, from the energy sector are going. Those are institutions that will be here embedded in this city way after Sylvester Turner leaves. But it is important for me to leave them there. And if you plant the seed, the crop will grow. So someone has to plant the seed, even though you may not be around when it grows. And that's what we are doing here. And then, you have to blaze the trail. Others will follow. So I feel real good about that. And plus, the diversity of this city and the vibrancy of the African community will not just let this stop. So whoever the next mayor is, still, if you want to be a good mayor, you will have to embrace the diversity in our city. And I think the next mayor, whoever the next mayor will probably be asked by members of the African American media and community. The last mayor went. When are you all going? And that is a question that should be asked. And what will you do to build on what the last mayor did? And that is a question that should be asked. So one of the reasons why we're holding this media briefing is not just to inform you about what we're going to do, but it's also to inform you so that you can hold the next person accountable for what they do or do not do. So that's not so much on me. That responsibility will fall on you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for having this press conference. And we talk a lot about the diplomatic aspects of your trip, but I wanted to ask, have you identified or will you identify potential business and investment opportunities in these three countries, and how best can that benefit those that are here in the diaspora in Houston?
Well, let me just say that there's so much potential with respect to trade between Africa and Houston. We are just at the beginning in terms of trade. Okay, we do more business in trade-wise with Nigeria than we do with the other two, but the potential is huge. It's huge. But that's not going to happen until you start building on the relationship. Okay, so that's an important element. We're taking people on this trip from the East End Maker Hub, TXRX, on innovation. Pat, I can't think of Pat's last name right now. Pat Ezel, for example, who heads the East End Maker Hub on innovation, is on this trip. Cote d'Ivoire, they are building an innovation center. Cote d'Ivoire is in the process of building a hospital. That's why we're taking representatives from the Texas Medical Center. Their infrastructure, they're working and investing on their infrastructure. So it's important to establish those relationships. There are people here in Houston, members of the diaspora, in business, that can further the relationship between the two. And some of them will be on this trip. We're meeting with the leaders of, for example, the African banks and others. That's important to build those relationships. So it's my hope that we can create some mutual benefits, whether it's in terms of business or economic enhancements, trade, the port sector, the life sciences, innovation, okay, and certainly energy and energy transition. Both Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana are investing a lot on renewables, but energy is very important to the African continent. Because as we talk about transitioning, many of those African countries, for example, are needing energy, oil, and gas for just capital and economic enhancements. So when you start telling them to step away, the dynamics are quite sensitive there. And for us to understand that even more, we need to be there. And I will tell you another reason why, for me, why we're going, because when I have gone, whether as mayor or in another capacity, you see the presence of other countries in Africa, China in particular. China has made and continues major investments in Africa. And I think, though, my belief is that people in Africa would love to do business with people in the United States. But in order for that to happen, each must date the other. Well, that's what Houston is doing. You know, we're trying to establish a relationship with Africa so that no one feels ignored or disrespected.
We have time for one
All right,
final question, gentlemen.
thank you very much.
Sure.
I know you've been on this seat for 2 times, many years right now. I know you've done a lot of international traveling and trade. Now, look at the continent of Africa, so much potential.
Yes.
What are the challenges, do you think are the challenges of Africa or African leaders or government? They might be watching this, and how do you think we can come out of it? Thank you.
Well, when you Africa is when you look at, for example, the economic and the labor force, huge. I think in Ghana, if I'm not mistaken, the average age of the population in Ghana is 20 years old. That's huge. Okay. Over here, I think the average age may be 37. So when you look at the labor force, when you look at the economic opportunities, trade, it's huge. And in many ways, it's like the new frontier. The other thing for me, and I will tell you, you are correct. You know, we have gone to Asia, we've gone to Europe, we've gone to Latin America, we've gone to all of these other places. And in many cases, it hasn't been difficult to bring everybody from all different sectors from the United States to go to Asia and Europe, Latin America. We still have some work to do on our end. Because when you start saying, let's go to Africa, sometimes some of you more traditional players don't necessarily see the importance. Let me just leave a cautionary note for Americans and for American businesses. Don't get left out. Okay? The world is evolving and changing. And Africa is a place of humongous opportunities. If you come late, you miss. And then don't get mad at other countries who stepped in before you got there. So in large part, what we are doing and what I'm seeking to do, and what I'm encouraging other mayors to do, is to go to Africa. So this is not just, you know, as you know, I was the former head of the African American Mayors Association. I'm continuing to encourage other mayors to go. I'm very active with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I'm encouraging those mayors to go. I'm the former head of the United States Climate Mayors. I'm encouraging those mayors to go. And I'm the current chair of the Global Resilient Cities Network. And those are cities from all over the globe. So there are humongous opportunities here for those who are willing to see them. Okay? So I wish I had more time as mayor here in the city of Houston. But be that as it may, there's no better time to go than right now. And so we are going. And I look forward to going. I look forward to coming back, and I look forward to the relationships that will be established for years and decades to come. Okay? Thank you all.
We have time for one quick question.